Sports Person of the Year for 2021. Do the guys have any issues with the GOAT taking that title? One guy in particular. Dame has been a Blazer for life, but could a trade be on the horizon? Tell you why we're asking that. And try to deny it all you want. Mac Jones and the Patriots are the hottest team in football. Good Wednesday morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. Jenna Wolf, Nick Wright, Chris Broussard, Kevin Wilds. Nick, 7th straight win for the Patriots. I got to imagine they're going to go flying up your tiers this week. Have to imagine it.
Call Jenna.
The committee reconvened yesterday for an emergency committee meeting to discuss that very point. Patriots should be revealed around 8:06 a.m. Eastern America. 8:06 is when I think the Patriots will be revealed on the tier.
Stay tuned.
All right, we'll get to all that. We got to get to all this. A little Lakers, a little Celtics, the latest chapter in the NBA's most storied rivalry. We're going to call this chapter All Lakers. Dominated on both sides of the court, dominated in the paint, over half their points scored there, dominated in the win column. Much needed win for a Lakers team whose head coach, Frank Vogel, is on the hot seat right now. Vogel addressed the rumors that his job is on the line before the game. He said, though, he's not worried about his job security, that he does feel the support of Lakers management. He says that he hasn't had any discussions about his job security, that he is simply focused on the job. Meanwhile, Charles Barkley weighed in, had a lot to say last night before the game on what he thinks is ailing the Lakers. Take a listen.
For the first month of the season, y'all blame everything on Russell Westbrook for the Lakers putting all them old-ass geezers together, and y'all blame Westbrook. Now I hear y'all gonna fire Frank Vogel. Listen, Russ is learning. Frank Vogel is a terrific coach. Putting all them old-ass geezers together and just trying to blame other people, it ain't right and it ain't cool. Listen, Anthony Davis, you got to play better. I said on this first night, if the Lakers were going to be any good, it was all going to be on you. Has nothing to do with Russell, had nothing to do with LeBron and the rest of them old-ass geezers they put together out there. But now y'all done crossed the line because I really like Frank Vogel. And listen, it ain't his fault, but listen, in my opinion, I blame Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis, you know I like you as a person, but you ain't doing what you're supposed to do. You're 27 years old. You're supposed to be in your prime. You're supposed to be one of the 5 best players in the world, up there with Giannis, Kevin Durant, and those guys. And you ain't holding up your end of the bargain. So now I hear y'all gonna fire the coach. That's total BS, man.
Can you imagine if Sir Charles was holding back? Broussard, do you agree with what Charles Barkley had to say?
Well, look, obviously he said a ton, Jenna. Let me boil it down to 2 things, his main points. Frank Vogel is not the problem with the Lakers, and Anthony Davis needs to play better. Yes, I agree. All right, he called Frank Vogel a terrific coach. I wouldn't go that far, and I do think that Tyronn Lue and Monty Williams, 2 guys that the Lakers considered hiring before Frank Vogel, I think they're better coaches than him. However, Vogel is a good coach, very good coach. He did a great job in Indiana. He couldn't win in Orlando, who has over the last decade. And then 2 years ago, he led the Lakers to the championship. All right, Frank Vogel was given the most volatile player in the league in Russell Westbrook. He was given the oldest roster in the league, as Charles so eloquently made clear. And his best player, LeBron James, has missed half the season. What are we talking about? Why are people panicking? All right? Be patient. All right? Frank Vogel is doing what he should be doing, which is experimenting with lineups, with rosters, or with rotations, with styles of play. And everything he's done is not defensible. And I know Nick will probably get to playing DeAndre Jordan. I'm with Nick on that. You can question some things. But overall, the Lakers should not spend 1 ounce of energy thinking about getting rid of Frank Vogel right now. And Anthony Davis, Nick, I said it a week ago. He's got a #1 game and the #1 talent, but he's a #2 player in terms of his approach and his demeanor-wise. And I need to see more aggressive play from him if he's capable. every single night.
Yep.
That's what Charles is talking about.
So I agree with you about Anthony Davis, Broussard. But here's the thing about Vogel. Doesn't matter if you don't think he's the problem. Doesn't matter if Barkley doesn't think he's the problem. Doesn't matter if I don't think he's the problem. It matters if LeBron thinks he's the problem. And LeBron gave a little press conference. He was asked about Frank Vogel. And he said a bunch of stuff. You know, Frank's a strong-minded guy. He's got a great coaching staff. We're a team that doesn't mind some adversity. To the point where one of my favorite blogs, Nick, Silver Screen and Roll SB Nation, they didn't know what to make of it. We had one headline that says LeBron James offers defensive criticism aimed at Frank Vogel after Lakers' slow start. And then in the podcast, LeBron's comments don't feel very supportive. And here's why. They weren't. If you have to question whether or not they were supportive, that means they weren't. And I treat LeBron talking about coaches just like I talk to my wife when I say I love you. Anything other than I love you too coming back is cause for concern. LeBron could have very easily said, you know what? It's a fair question, and Frank has gotten a lot of criticism. Frank is my guy. Frank's not going anywhere. He could have pulled, Nick, the Mike Tomlin USC rant out of his back pocket.
But they would be...
Frank's my guy. He's
Frank's
not going
not Phil
anywhere,
Jackson.
so stop asking. Little Nick Saban in there.
Well, wait a minute.
Stop asking.
Wait a minute.
He
Wait a
didn't.
minute.
So his seat is very, very high.
Of course. Yeah, okay, but hold on. Not only is Frank not Phil Jackson, he's also not Libby Wilde's Oscar winner extraordinaire and the wonderful mother and wife of Kevin Wildes. Love of your life. Like Wildes, I don't, this might be breaking news. You rightfully feel much more strongly about your wife than LeBron does about Frank Vogel. So you're asking him to lie. Now, he didn't crush Vogel, and because I also read Silver Screen and Roll, Anthony Irwin and company do a great job there. And they wrote in one of the pieces, you know when LeBron's out on a coach, he doesn't have to say it because you'll see it with his actions on the court. And by the way, historically, really only one coach LeBron has napalmed. Blatt, and he was correct. They fired Blatt, ended up winning the title. Everyone's like, oh, Ty Lue, you're going to go to Ty Lue. And now it turns out, oh, Ty Lue, one of the 5 best coaches in basketball, and within a playoff series, maybe the very best coach in basketball. So he was right about that. Now, I know LeBron was tepid at best about Spoelstra early, but that also was 11 years ago at this point. And Spoelstra was an unproven commodity. Riley was correct, obviously, for sticking with Spo, who's turned into a great coach. I am not blaming all or even the majority of the Lakers' issues on Vogel. But there is this weird space where folks want to act as if any criticism of Vogel is unfair. Well, then what's the head coach there for? If a team is underachieving with some very odd lineup decisions and some very odd rotations, and yes, when it does take you 20 games to realize something that I and the entirety of basketball watchers, including Steve Nash, who no one exactly is comparing to Red Auerbach, realized a year ago, some realized 2 years ago, that DeAndre Jordan is fossilized, yeah, there's going to be some criticism. And so Broussard, I viewed LeBron's comments on Vogel as fair because they were neither too hot nor too cold. It was, I'm not going to add fuel to the fire. I'm not going to put it out either, though, because Vogel should feel pressure. Now, on Anthony Davis, Broussard, Anthony Davis last year was 21-7. That can't happen. This year, he is 24-10. And he is better than he was last year. And he is more so as the year has evolved, shooting fewer threes, which is probably because he's shooting 19% from 3. And he's playing more minutes at center, as we all have demanded. So I also think it is, right now it is, because of his talent, Anthony Davis being the 10th best player in the world is underachieving. right? He needs to be in that top 7, top 6, maybe top 5, discussion with Steph, Durant, Giannis. I'm leaving somebody obvious out other than LeBron. My apologies. I'll think of him in a moment. And he needs to be in that sphere, in that echelon, and he hasn't played to that level. But I also think that some of the criticism of Anthony Davis by a guy like Barkley could be good for him. I think Barkley last year called him street clothes, and then the poor guy tried to play a playoff game with a torn groin. I think in direct response to Chuck, he's like, oh, you think I'm soft? I'll go out here on one leg. So I do think AD needs to be better. I do think LeBron needs to be more available. And I do think Vogel needs to be smarter with some obvious decisions. All of that is fair to me.
Yeah, and look, you hit it on the head, Nick, with LeBron's comments about Vogel. They were fair. And I think LeBron likes keeping heat on people. Wiles, he could have said what you asked him to say, and then Vogel would have been able to relax and all that. But that's not how LeBron works. Man. Look at all those teams he had in Cleveland his second go-round. He kept